CD Projekt went from being one of the most respected developers in the entire industry to a laughingstock almost overnight with the release of Cyberpunk 2077. A game has never been hyped to the extent that Cyberpunk saw. When it did release, and the public saw that the PlayStation 4 version and Xbox One versions in particular were unplayable, it effectively caused all of the trust and goodwill that CDPR had generated through Witcher 2 and 3 to disappear. A lot has changed at CD Projekt, so much so that they are effectively an entirely different company. I have spent the better part of the last 4 months attempting to figure out exactly what has changed, if they're telling the truth about those changes, and what we, the players, can expect from both the Cyberpunk franchise and the Witcher franchise in the coming years. This is everything I was able to learn in the alleged future of CD Projekt Red. Following the unprecedented move of Sony removing 2077 from their online storefront for the last generation consoles, CD Projekt made the announcement that they were almost entirely reshaping their corporate structure and giving the baseline employee more power. They went into how, starting in early 2022, they would be focusing on simultaneous AAA development. And without going into specifics on what these two different teams would be working on, they talk about how the smaller, more connected team may be able to do better work than a much larger, kind of haphazardly structured team. This goes into what Pavel Sasko has gone into on record multiple times on his live stream. What the biggest failing of CD Projekt through the development of 2077 was: communication. Talk to any developer at CD Projekt Red, and they will discuss their own team more so than the company as a whole. Through the development of 2077, these different teams did not have official means of communication, at least not very efficient lines. It's because of this that 2077's development was full of friction points, and also led to the PR and marketing not receiving accurate information all of the time. The simultaneous AAA development is not being done, at least on the face of it, to double profits with more product. The size of CD Projekt is not changing from the development of 2077. Instead, the closer-knit teams will allow the communication to flow easier and allow those teams to work efficiently with the different disciplines. The other side of the coin, however, crunch. The company really has been restructuring, and if you don't believe me, I've spoken with a few developers that have effectively told me that the difference in their own livelihood is thousands of work hours less that are required to be done. CD Projekt appears to not only be attempting to revitalize the trust of their customers, but more importantly, the executives and the higher-ups that make the decisions are trying to regain the trust of their employees. So when next year rolls around, we're going to be dealing with two major AAA development teams, and then of course the team working on Gwent. The CEO of CD Projekt has gone on the record at least a dozen times at this point, stating that their main goal right now is to deliver the product that they promised, even if that product was something that was miscommunicated due to the lack of efficient communication between the developers and the marketing team.
In terms of support, work on Cyberpunk will continue for as long as it's necessary. Our ultimate goal is to deliver on the promise we gave to gamers and regain their trust. We are fully committed to ensuring that Cyberpunk lives up to its full potential and becomes a long-term success.
What customers thought they were buying, CD Projekt is now going to deliver. At least they're telling us they want to. CD Projekt is going to be consistently releasing updates to 2077, completely remaking almost every system that exists in the game over time. So no, there won't be a No Man's Sky moment where immediately the game has improved. The game will slowly mutate into what they originally promised, and when they finally end support for the game in terms of real content being developed, it will truly be the game that they are intending to deliver, at least according to their own words. Everything we're about to discuss has been found through data mining the actual build of the game, talking to people all over the industry, and a little bit of speculation sprinkled in here and there. Everything I say should be taken with a grain of salt. As for the numbered patches in the next generation update, which the PC will still be seeing, you can expect major system reworks over the next few years. The entirety of the police system will be reworked. Factions will actually remember your previous behavior. This is a system that actually currently exists in the game, and since 1.3, Arasaka drones are starting to attack players if you've started a new game on 1.3. Red is working on an NPC variety system, both in terms of vehicles and the actual NPCs you see around the world. The ability to wear a piece of clothing or armor or accessory and use another piece of clothing, armor, or accessories stats to wear what you want and use what you want at the same time. At some point through development, quite late into development, the gameplay team decided that DPS trumps everything, and every other statistic on a weapon or a piece of armor should be replaced with just damage per second and the damage it can take. Burying factions, weaknesses, resistances, burying weapons, different stats based on the types of damage that they're outputting. All of that is apparently going to be rebalanced to bring all of those RPG systems more to the forefront. The free DLC, which we're going to be seeing a couple dozen of, and we've already seen 3 things of, you're going to be seeing some apartment customization features and a few different apartments. You're going to be seeing a new game plus system. You're going to be seeing player customization, a barber shop. So for example, like in The Witcher, you can go see a hairstylist and wear the toast, and just generally change the look of your character following the initial character creation. CD Projekt has been hiring from the modding community. The official statement is that they're being hired to not only bug fix the game, but also create modding tools for the end user. Then you have the expansions. These are the biggins. We don't know how many they're going to be making. As of now, we have references to 2 being data mined out of the game. And as for expansion pack 1, there is a whole lot of story content that can actually be data mined out of the retail build of 2077, but to avoid spoilers, keep in mind that expansion pack 1 appears to be expanding on Pacifica. These expansion packs, as far as I can tell, are not going to be introducing entirely new world spaces. Instead, they're going to be layering expanded world spaces on top of the already existing map of Night City. So think Hearts of Stone and not Blood and Wine. It should be noted, however, at least according to all the data mined information I could find out of the retail build of the game, that this is not going to be taking place after the ending of 2077. These stories will fit into V's current mission and just kind of expand gameplay before that final Hanako decision is made. As talked about in the investor calls, as paid for by the Polish government, at least on a research side of things, and as seen in leaks as recent as 2 months ago, Cyberpunk 2077's online mode, originally called Cyberpunk Online, has been brought back into development. This is now an entirely separate expansion built into the main client, treated as any other expansion pack, and will bring in cooperative play. Cyberpunk Online appeared to be somewhat of a Grand Theft Auto Online clone, but that was canceled. What we're dealing with now is something more akin to a small MMO. Multiplayer is something that is definitely going to happen for the Cyberpunk franchise, but whether or not it happens for 2077, meaning whether or not it pans out, of course, is up in the air. So that's Team A. But of course, when 2022 starts, CD Projekt is going to be experimenting with parallel AAA development. What's Team B going to be working on? Witcher 4. This can go a couple of ways. Number one, they're obviously going to be doing something multiplayer related. They keep hammering home the idea that they're going to be experimenting in multiplayer RPGs sometime in the future to their investors. And so there are 2 concepts that we can likely expect from future Witcher games. Number one, if they do a single player game, you're probably going to be playing as Ciri. Very basic quest pre-production seems to be happening right now, but that's really only that extra few people that they refer to in the investor calls that aren't really placed to anything else. It's a handful of people. It's a couple dozen people. Cyberpunk had the same kind of thing, and whatever they were working on for that prototyping phase didn't really pan out in the final product. As for multiplayer, it's heavily rumored that CD Projekt Red is going to be bringing back an unused concept from Witcher 1, where you would be able to create your own Witcher. This, of course, would likely have to take place before the time of Geralt. By the time the books start, there aren't that many Witchers anymore. We also have Witcher Complete Edition, which is a brand new re-release of The Witcher 3, bringing a whole bunch of next generation type graphical updates. All of the things that are being brought to PS5 and Xbox Series X, of course, are coming to PC, and they've also announced how they're going to be items DLC items from the Netflix show. They've stated that Saber Interactive, the third-party company that is focused on creating the complete edition, will be out late this year. Lastly, as for Cyberpunk Next Gen, the executive stated in the latest investor call that it won't necessarily be coming out in late 2021. They're aiming for that right now, but they're not crunching anymore. Their employees are not being forced to work overtime anymore. So they've learned. They want to deliver a finished product. They are no longer in the situation where the powers that be are demanding that the product be released at a specific time, no matter the cost. So if they don't make Q4 2021 to release Cyberpunk Next Gen, it's not because they're not trying, it's because they don't want to make the same mistakes. That's why they're not talking. That's why they're not announcing things. So, if you read an article that's attempting to position the idea of the next-gen version of Cyberpunk not reaching its deadline as a negative, realize that it's only occurring because people aren't being crunched anymore, they aren't shipping an unfinished product anymore, and they're bug testing the hell out of it. Anyways, that was just a rundown of everything I was able to learn over the last 4 months on what CD Projekt is going to be doing over the next few years. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Tyler McVicker. Follow me on Twitter to keep up with CD Projekt and everything else I cover, and have a good day. Adios.